And Ryan, welcome back to F.A.C.E. It's been a long time.
Hey Dale, can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, Ryan, loud and
Hey,
clear.
how's it going?
Good. How are you, my trading warrior
I'm
brother?
good. I gotta be honest with you. I was just outside having coffee on my deck, and for some reason I thought the podcast was a little bit later, so I got your message thankfully and ran
Oh,
inside.
cool.
I'm good.
Cool. Where do you trade from, Ryan?
I'm in New York.
Okay. You want to share your screen? You have something to share with us that you
Yeah,
want to
hold on
talk
one
about?
sec. I haven't been on Zoom in a while, so
Yeah, it's that little green box.
let me just how do I pick a
A nice fall morning in
portion
New
of the
York.
screen? All right,
There you go. It's coming up.
one sec.
All right.
Can you see
Yeah.
the trading view screen
Got
in
it.
its entirety?
Well, yeah, Bitcoin, perpetual
Cool.
contract.
All right.
All right. So you've been much more active in crypto since we
Yeah,
last
absolutely.
talked?
Yeah, I mean the summer months are lighter. We see summer months kind of pull off. September is not really a good month for crypto historically, even though historically we're only talking about just over a decade, so it's really hard
Yeah.
to go by what's happened when you have such a small sample size. But
That's not ghost month, is it? September?
What's that?
There's a month that crypto traders call the Asians. They have a month called Ghost Month. Ghosts, like Ghostbusters,
Oh,
where they're not supposed to be investing. I've had some crypto guys tell me that's usually not as much money flow, since Asia is a big part of it, or used to be a bigger part of it.
huh. No, I'm not. That might be during the Chinese New Year. I'm not really familiar. I know that
Okay.
I know September is just historically it's a poor month from a return standpoint for Bitcoin. But obviously rolling in right now to the end of September, the only thing that I would say is obviously worth considering right now in the bigger picture is not the only thing, but one of the more important things is obviously what's taking place in equities, what's taking place in traditional markets.
Yeah.
A lot of crypto native traders like to think that Bitcoin is and crypto as being part of that is something that's independent of traditional and legacy markets. But what we've seen in the last year is that relationship has strengthened. And so what happens is obviously the smaller cap cryptos are like higher beta plays on Bitcoin. And when we have something like the VIX rise or something like the S&P or the ES, which we'll look at in a sec if we want, when that is experiencing significant volatility and we see a rise in the VIX, it spills over into crypto and then inadvertently starts
So it's
affecting.
a source of funds when there's risk off and people need liquidity.
Well, yeah, that especially during any kind of liquidity crisis, you'll see contagion, obviously, like you'll see in all markets. So the Evergrande situation is something that is obviously or should be on everyone's radar. I don't really think that it's going to be as significant I don't think what will end up occurring. I think we've seen the bulk of it. I'm not really expecting much more, but then again, it's not really my area of competence. I really just source most of this stuff from guys that are better in this particular arena.
What about the cockroach theory?
What's that?
Ryan, that if you see one cockroach, there's normally more than one around.
Yeah, I don't want to get too far into conjecture because then it would be very difficult for me to just take a position period if I'm just going to be assuming that we're waiting for the other shoe to drop. As long as
you don't want the sword of Damocles hanging over your head.
What's that?
You don't like the sword of Damocles hanging over your head?
No, I mean I am.
Then stop trading.
Yeah. Well, as it is right now, I largely risked off when Bitcoin initially broke down from its highs. So I became more focused on my short-term trading than any kind of long-term exposure. There are a lot of people that really buy into the narrative and romanticize these pairs, but Bitcoin has more of a macro relationship right now, and you know, I treat it like anything else. It's just an asset. I'm trading it. So right now we've had a pullback from that previous all-time high. I don't get the impression that it's done, but I do think that we're going to be due for a longer period of consolidation. You know, we have in this case, it was more than a year. So from 2020, so from March 2020, Bitcoin's essentially been on a, one-way path upward. We have, 3-month consolidation at the highs, no major blow off top. But regardless of whether or not we were going to continue up or continue down, you would expect that you would get some type of pullback back to that, at least back to the 0.5 fib or back to the 618 after such a significant move. So, us being here, a lot of people end up longing this structure when the reality is it's kind of the most important contextual level on the chart that we would expect to act as resistance. So for me, I am in a position right now where I need to see that, this sort of 39K to 40K level access support, right? Because it was sort of a month and a half long. It was that very significant contextual point of resistance for this consolidation post breakdown. So I would expect this to act as support, but I would like to see it develop a little bit further before I really start getting heavily back into spot positions. Most of my futures trading is on the shorter time frame, so more intraday. I'm talking about long-term exposure. That or a reclaim of the 45K region, which right now is currently acting as high time frame resistance. I think that what ultimately is going to happen with BTC is it's going to, into the month of October, it probably will range a bit more. We are still in a higher time frame range, and then potentially, maybe begin its trend again going into 2022. I don't think that we're looking at an all-time high the end of this year. So that's just the high time frame.
Yep.
So 50K is probably, that round number level right now, considering we've had the rejection sit there so far. If we're able to reclaim 50K, that's fine. I'll get heavier into it. If we develop some sort of base down here around 40, then I'll consider getting into a larger spot position or getting more exposure. For now, I'm really just focused on the lower time frames.
Is there any chance for a full-blown retest if things say get ugly with risk off?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I mean,
we couldn't see 30 again.
Oh, okay. So I'm sorry. When you said retest, I was thinking you meant all-time high.
No, I'm talking about if there's a 20% correction in equities. Could Bitcoin see?
If there is a correction in equities, I think that Bitcoin just behaves like a higher beta equity.
Okay.
It trades like a tech stock at that point, which means that obviously it's going to have more downside. This 40K level is doing its job so far, but a lot of the times Bitcoin has the tendency to revisit all possible points where you would find most of the liquidity. And in this case, sort of this 37K low is attractive. And you see obviously a lot of stops placed around there. That's sort of the low pre this large move back up towards this all-time high consolidation structure. But if we see a further correction in equities, then the way I play it is if we reaccept back within a prior range, so underneath 39, and we're talking all the way back down to low 30s, I just treat it like it's going to fall back into the same comfortable behavior it was prior. So It becomes very deterministic in that sense because it is very technically driven, that if you lose 39, regardless of the circumstances that cause that it's very likely that you quickly revisit sort of that 35, midpoint of the range structure for this lower consolidation. And then, depending on how we get a response there, maybe we look for a play back towards the range high, the prior range high, or look towards the lows again. There's nothing that's, out of the question when it comes to where this can.
Everything and anything can happen.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of it, I think that a lot of it does, as far as the high time frame, I think a lot of it does hinge on, what equities do into fourth quarter.
So you're swing trading on what TF, like a 4-hour, right?
Yeah. So if I'm most of my trading, I'd say 90% of my trading is lower time frame position trading. focusing on things like the current financing costs in crypto. So for the derivatives, we have funding, which is something that is popular if you're trading the perpetual swaps or the leverage products. And the funding is going to be an indication of whether or not longs are currently paying shorts or shorts are currently paying longs for those positions. For my swing trading, I'll be focusing on mostly higher time frame structure. So the 4 hour to the daily, the major contextual levels that stand out. So, we're talking major pivot points on the daily, on the weekly, but the lower time frame trading, I'm focusing mostly on order flow and market profile. So this, the region that we're in right now, we've had a significant response off of that 40K level, but I wouldn't really expect us to V-shape reversal right here. It's not like we've had any kind of significant buildup in open interest. If anything, we've seen open interest drop. So I don't think we're really looking at much more of a squeeze than we currently have. So what ultimately I would want to see if I was still long, in this case I'm not, is that spot was leading the market. And I think there is a slight spot lead right now. So spot is actually trading slightly above the futures market. But I think that we ultimately are going to be basing out over the coming days. So where we're at right now, I would expect us probably to develop back beneath 43 down to 41. It's just typically after Bitcoin has a significant move down, it's not going to just V-shape reversal under, not under these types of conditions. So we would probably be looking at maybe a 3-4 day consolidation. So ultimately for me, what that would mean is if we lose this low right around 43, so 43.3, that we'd be looking to fall back within, what was the prior value areas of the last 2 days, which is between 43.3 and down to right around 41.5.
So when you're sitting here flat, Ryan, do you have a bias? Are you prepped so that these areas that you're talking about, should they come into play, that you're ready to execute based upon, that's why you're when you're, really we get paid at times when we're flat and we're doing our work to come up with the plan so that when the market's there, we're not involved in analysis, we're executing. So
Yeah, no,
go ahead.
No, sorry. So yeah, so my routine in my house is wake up. I already know most of the significant levels on the chart. I have
in your head
the areas that I want to be at least present so that I could determine whether or not I want to get active. Most of it is sitting in the last couple of weeks. Most of it is honestly sitting on the sidelines.
Right.
With Bitcoin, since it is so technically driven, the setups such as before this breakdown. So for example, the return back to this higher time frame level, so 39, 40, this swipe of these lows down here around 42, 43. These levels are really high probability areas that you would expect a response. And it's almost like if you just got involved at the higher time frame levels, even if it meant on the low time frame. So the first visit back to those levels, if you only got involved during those periods and you stayed out of the market every other time, you probably could get away with doing really well. But most people obviously, they have trouble sort of being inactive, right? Sitting on the sidelines, just kind of observing, stalking, hunting, whatever you want to call it.
Tom Petty
so I already know the levels I want to get involved. Those high probability levels immediately are in the forefront of my head. Once we start interacting with them too much, though, it's probably going to be that they're going to be less significant in getting that, very obvious response that they would on the first trip back. And then
so you become jaded if an area, if the market's giving people too much time and opportunity to trade at a critical price level. It's saying, okay, you missed it last week, the entry at that support level, but we're going to let you buy it here again.
Yeah, that's usually not a good sign, right? The way that I look at the market is, talk about, for example, the TPO chart or market profile is the same way that you should if you were looking at, something that you're going to buy in the store, right? If you were looking at, if you iPhones, for example, new iPhone 13 came out, it's probably like $1,000, right? If you dropped the price of that by 20%, it shouldn't, if you had 100 of them and you drop the price by 20%, they shouldn't be for sale for a long period of time, right? You would expect that those would be immediately grabbed by people looking to buy. Same thing with the market, right? I mean, if
Good metaphor.
If Bitcoin is trading at lower prices and sort of hovering around a previous level that gave it a significant response prior, and this time around it's kind of just moseying there, then I'm not seeing the sort of response that would say to me, hey, buyers really want to get involved at this level, because they're letting it hang out here for a considerable amount of time.
Have you let go of trading the legacy markets, Ryan?
Yeah, for the most part, it's just something that I'm using as proxy now, as more of a, again, if I'm looking at the S&P, or if I'm looking at macro, or if I'm paying attention to the VIX when I mention these things, it's kind of just to make sure that things are steady enough for me to be, one way or the other in crypto, right? If we're seeing,
interesting.
When
did you make that decision? Because last time, I think this is like a new paradigm for you, isn't it?
No, I mean, I think the last time we spoke was like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe, right?
Wow. Yeah.
So I have completely transitioned to trading primarily crypto.
Okay. Was
it's
it
a
that
lot,
long?
the way to put it is, it's just an easier poker table to play at.
I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So
Do you trade with hard stops?
on the low time frames, I'm not really using stops. On the high time frames, yeah, I'm trading with a very hard invalidation level. Low time frames, for the most part, when I'm trading, might have a tail risk stop on, so something that is kind of just outside of the area where I'm getting involved in case market sort of rolls over. But a lot of the times on the low time frame, I'm going to be manually pulling myself out of trades immediately when they're not sort of showing the response that I want to see. That's for the low time frames, though. I don't advise that people don't use stops. That's something that you have to obviously have an invalidation for your trade, or something that really says that, hey, my thesis is incorrect. For the high time frame, a lot of the times my stop is going to be based on either a multiple of the daily range. So what you'll see is some indicators are helpful in this regard. They'll actually incorporate some type of line on the chart to help you determine that. So a multiple of volatility. So if I'm following a trend, it would be similar to using a moving average as a stop. So either a multiple of ATR, a moving average for a trend, and obviously, if it's a matter of market structure, if we lose any significant level of market structure, then yeah, I'm for the most part, I'm going to be out of that position.
All right. Where would be the safest place to trade crypto? Regulated, so that you're pretty much assured that your deposits are safe.
So, me being where I'm from, the safest regulated place that's really only available is, for most retail, is Coinbase.
Okay.
And
do you feel
Coinbase,
comfortable leaving a lot of cash in your account there?
I am. Yeah, I am.
Interesting.
I don't, I self-custody the spot positions that I end up picking up, meaning if I'm buying a long-term position and not using futures to get exposure, then I'll probably just put that in my hardware wallet. It is completely different from sort of what if you're coming from a legacy background and you're trading legacy, the concept of, for example, you wouldn't take custody of your stock certificates, right? If you're longing Tesla, It's not like you're holding Tesla in your closet. Whereas with Bitcoin, you have the opportunity to buy Bitcoin, take it off the exchange, put it on, or rather it's not taking it off the exchange, but taking control of your private keys and putting it on some sort of hardware wallet. But that gets more into sort of the philosophical differences between crypto and legacy, and taking control of your assets and self-sovereignty. And, that's not something that I am here for, really. I appreciate that. I think that, there's something to be said for that in this day and age, but I'm primarily just here to take advantage of the volatility.
Okay. And do you have any comment on Jay Powell was asked about the U.S. government going to some type of digital asset, crypto? I found it interesting that they're doing studies on it. You think that governments allowed this experiment to occur so that people would embrace it and they could have their own deal?
So it's an interesting thesis. I mean, I think that it's an inevitability. I think that they definitely see that there's a lot of interest in it, but I don't necessarily think that they take into account that the people that are interested in the crypto version, the more crypto native version, obviously, Bitcoin, for example, are in it for sort of different motivations, right? To sort
Right.
of get out of the current financial system.
To
Whereas
get out of fiat.
right.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I don't think the game. So I'm not like I don't really drink the Kool-Aid too much with that, because I know that when it comes to government, it's a matter of who has more guns in that case. You're not going to start a new, I don't think you're going to start a new world currency under the sort of purview or eyes of the United States government, right? So
Okay.
I
All
think
right.
you have to embrace regulation. I think you have to accept that when they get involved, they're going to shake things up. Ultimately, I think it's better for any kind of long-term promise for the asset class to be, to be regulated so that it's accepted, so that more people are willing to get involved. When you talk about pension funds, old money asset managers, it's not like they don't want to sort of dip their toes in until they know that it's safe. So for things
Yeah.
like an ETF, for example, it comes up a lot. I don't think you see an ETF until they've kind of cleaned up the space to their liking.
Okay.
And I think, part of that future means that, there's going to be sort of the, what's the central bank digital currency, the Fed dollar, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
I think that that's just the reality now, right? There's no way in sort of arguing against it.
Okay. Well, it's anything you want to you wrap with here, Ryan? Interesting to talk to you. I know you really don't have an axe to grind. Are you managing money or just trading your own account?
No, now I'm just trading my own account. So
Okay.
don't have an axe to grind. I wish, I honestly, I didn't realize that I made a mistake with the time. I ran to the computer. I was probably not as prepared as I should be. It's my mistake. But just to wrap it up for BTC right now, I am, I trade some of the altcoins when Bitcoin is in, I would say, a more stable environment. For
They're like
Bitcoin, I would
pink
like to
sheet
see it
stocks,
reiterate a
aren't
little.
they?
What's that?
They're like pink sheets used to be,
Yeah,
right?
they are. They trade like penny stocks, like OTC
Yeah.
stocks.
Okay.
But for Bitcoin, what I would like to see is I'd like to see either a retest of the low 40 region, because I think we're ultimately going to balance out between this 43, 41 spot. Or if we're able to reclaim 45, I think that would probably be 45 up to 48 would be a pretty quick trip. Right now, where we are, it looks like we're consolidating at higher time frame resistance, but sort of rolling off of it, not consolidating in the way that I would want to see for me to think that it's going to suddenly start breaking through.
Yeah, it's going lower.
Yeah, so I think that this is a bounce on the way down after a very significant drop.
Yeah.
But even after the FOMC meeting yesterday, you saw traditional markets had
Yeah.
this sort of response where it's like, okay, this is they're
Buy
interpreting this
everything.
as somewhat hawkish. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that bodes well for Bitcoin.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you taking time and being flexible, and you didn't miss a beat. So you were prepared. It was nice talking to you again, Ryan.
Thank you,
I hope
Dale.
you have a great fall trading season, and that you stay healthy. And do you want people to follow you on Twitter?
Sure, if they want to follow me, I'm Cantor Clark on Twitter.
You ever take anyone under your wing and teach them?
So a long time ago, we created a course on market profile and order flow. And if they want to check out that course, it's at www.blockroots.com.
Okay. All right. You really have to have a lot of patience to teach, don't you?
Well, that's why I created the course, so that I don't need to hold
That's why
hands.
that's why I said that. All
Yeah.
right. Well, Ryan, great to talk to you again, my trading morning
Likewise,
brother.
Dale.
All right, buddy.
Take
All
care.
right, good stuff. So that's a wrap, everyone. We'll tomorrow we'll wrap it up with I believe the owner of Live Squawk. So hope you guys enjoyed Ryan. You could tell that this guy knows market, so he's not trying to sell you anything, but perhaps follow him on your curated Twitter list. And good hunting the rest of the day, everyone. That's Friday, Richard. I think Ryan's going to help me with the interview there. See you, Hugo. Adios, everyone. Remember, don't just block roots. Okay. I thought you were talking about my hair, Barry. So don't just count your pips, count your blessings. See you, Sinatra. See you, everyone.